Well, thanks. Don't know whether to thank for asking me to talk today, but anyway, we'll see how this goes. So I'm a grain grower from a couple hundred k's south of here, I suppose, just west of the Warrumbungles, for people that know where that is. And a bit of history of our property. We bought into the area in the very early 90s. In those periods, it was sheep and cropping. It didn't take long for us we had a fair bit of coin, so we weren't going to hang around with the sheep at the time. People remember those days. So we discovered that there was the money in those times was albus lupins and a cereal to go with them. It's fairly, on the whole, there's a mixture of deep Currajong red country through to mild country in this area. So albus were giving us $700 a tonne, between $500 and $700 a tonne at that time, and that was an awful lot better than $3 or $4 a head for sheep. So we basically lived a dream for a little bit. So we went a straight pulse serial rotation for a fair while. We had it enabled us to buy country and buy more country. We had 2 to 3 tonne to the hectare of albus lupins in a good year. We were using no grass preems. Topic was getting cheap. It was a very cheap rotation, and we lived a great dream for a little bit, which rapidly became a delusion when this one happened. So they kept telling us it was going to happen, and it happened in about. I'm just trying to see here. We had it for a while. We made a lot of money, actually. It was great. I really enjoyed it. So I'll just try and get this down here. So I think it was about the early 2000s, very early 2000s we went through a slow period. Basically, you all know what happens, that you get a couple of escapes and that's cool, doesn't matter. Get a few more the next year and that's right, that's all fine. But no preems in anything, and then by the late 2000s we had a blowout, and by then I was sure they weren't escapes, because up until then they'd only been escapes. And my aggro at the time, he wasn't 100% sure. It's in 2010. It was actually. He wasn't 100% sure, so we decided that we'd test a plot. This is the paddock that I discovered the issue in. It's a pretty ordinary pick, but it's up an end of a watercourse. There's a watercourse that comes to the left to the right, so you can't really see them. There's a significant number of black oats in that area there. We actually sprayed that paddock with Topic, and the plants died, the oats died, then they came again. So it rained, so they came again. So the aggro said, well, just not enough higher rate. How about we go again? I thought it was probably resistance being. We went higher again, didn't bloody work. By then it's too late in the season. A fella, Stan Nooner from Syngenta, came out and offered to run a few trials, see what did work. It wasn't fantastic with what did work. I lost a fair bit of sleep over that. But Group B still worked. Obviously Roundup, Group M still worked. It would have been a winter crop rotation. So the winter weeds, we're an early sower. The winter, that's the secret to making money out our way. You've got to be an early. You've got to sow early. And so we sowed. We couldn't afford to let these weeds germinate, so they'd never seen Roundup. The following year we went in with canola, Roundup Ready canola, sowed it dry, and in front of a rain. It was a late break. The break came about the 18th of May, and so we had a bowling green, just germinated bowling green, basically with black oats, rye, the whole kit and caboodle. You could hardly see the canola. Sprayed it twice. Did a whole heap of things to try and fix our issues. We were on 13 to 13 inch roads still. I've just moved this one. We moved to 10 inch roads a couple of years later and got rid of the bloody tram lines. I spent, after the following year, we went back to wheat, Group B. It worked all right, except the tram lines were, I bloody hand-picked those damn things. I've got a neighbour to the right of me who's organic. He's upstream. So that's what I deal with on that side, and this is literally 100 metres away on the left. So that's 10 inch rows, okay? And that's, yeah, you know, to the other extreme, all right? So we ended up, that's what I aimed for. I decided we had to get rid of everything else. We had to get rid of, I had to be able to grow a crop that try and make it as hostile as I possibly could for the weeds that had germinated, right? So we narrowed our rows from, we were 13, we went to 10, which I know is not overly narrow for a lot of people here, but it's very narrow for our area. So we went to 10, and I wanted to not bury the seed. That was what my first thing, any seed set that had happened, I didn't want to bury it, I had to leave it on top. So the disc came in, which I sort of have a love-hate relationship with, but anyway. So we've got it running probably how we sort of want it now. We've cleaned this paddock right up. It took about 6 years, I reckon, to clean it up. If you get now, this is a 16 actually, by the way, these photos. So in 16, we were able to get a good kill with Group Bs, and then we let everything, we got a lot of late germinators, very soft season. We windrow burned everything. I think by then we're pretty well safe and sound. This is this year. So this is so we've gone from, we've got to still be able to sow in a year where we don't get a break. So the crop on the left, believe it or not, is the same, that is taken the same spot. It's not very long ago. But that is taken in the same spot where I had a black oat blowout in the early 2000s. And that's got no chemical under it, and that had 35 mil under it to get it. They were sown dry, both of them were sown dry, 35 millimetres of rain, and I can't see black oat in it, or a ryegrass plant. So it does work. Sorry, I've gone ahead a bit quickly, I'm not a public talker. But it does work, but you've just got to narrow your rows up, get your seed. The average around our area is probably 45 kgs to the hectare of seed. We sow about 60 to 70. And then that amounts for stuff up. So unfortunately I didn't take a photo. These aren't heavy sowing rates, these are seed increase blocks. But unfortunately I didn't take a photo, but we have a paddock next door where we pre-emerged it in front of this 34 mil rain, and it's a bloody disaster. So it's disc sown, and it's just hopeless as opposed to these ones. So I totally agree with disc seeders and pre-emergence. They're a real pain in the butt. You've really got to get it right. So a year like this, at home, a year like this, which doesn't happen very often, we've got to have our weed numbers down to be able to still be able to make money in years like this. We've got to be able to sow crops early without relying too much on chemicals that aren't going to work. So that's what my experience is. So thank you for your time, but I'm short and sharp, but that's about it. Thank you.